You become what you practice. And if you've been moving through your day with a little more criticism than calm lately, maybe it's time to press pause. And that's what I'm exploring today. We experience 1,000 waking minutes on average every day. How are you spending yours? I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, and you're listening to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I can't wait to connect with you here with practical ways to eat well, move daily, and be healthy, to optimize every waking minute you live for a happier, healthier life. Thank you for sharing some of your waking minutes with me today. Let's get started.
I'm saying yes to better days, yes. I'm on my way, yes. It's gonna be okay, yeah.
Welcome back to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, and I'm so glad you're here. Today we're doing something that sounds simple, but is actually kind of radical. Today we're taking a break, just one day from criticism. Not forever, not even for a week, but just for today. A pause to pointing out what's wrong with the world, with other people, and yes, with ourselves. And funny enough, this came up recently with my 6-year-old daughter, whom I love to talk with and also talk about at times. And it came up when we were talking about words and getting the start on our day and what was coming up. So we have a little saying, a little routine in the morning, typically. And in fact, I had it made into wooden letters that are posted on a wall in the room in our house. And I say, "What's in store for today? I wonder." And one of us says one part and one says the other, but it always starts with, "What's in store for today? I wonder." So that morning I asked her, what she was thinking about for school and what the day might hold, what week it is. We have A weeks and B weeks and different things happen on them. And then she turned it around to me, as we often do. But she says, "Well, what about you, Mama? What's in store for today? What's your podcast about this week?" she asked. And I said, "Well, it's about criticism and how we all kind of need to take a break from it from time to time, starting with myself." So this is the impetus here, because we all get wrapped in that routine. But at that moment, she looked at me, learning so many words, understanding things, and certainly experiencing them. But she said, "What's criticism?" She's experienced it. We all have. She's witnessed it. And she's still learning about sort of nuance and definitions and hearing context and everything. So we talked about it just a little, and I tried to make it. I found it actually somewhat challenging to verbalize a little bit more about criticism, which helped me for today, hopefully, to explain it and what we're going to do with you. But I explained it to her as simple as I could about when someone says something that makes you maybe feel small, or when you're corrected, but not to help, but to point something out just to do it. And we even touched a little bit on constructive criticism, which is where I sort of turned next, because sometimes the feedback, the constructive criticism that we're trained to do, it helps us grow. And it's kind, and it can be kind, and it's even asked for. So she listened and she nodded, and then out of nowhere she asked, "But how do you keep from criticizing the world?" And that just sort of stopped me. It sort of floored me. Because isn't that the question? But how do we stop from picking apart the world when there is, at times, seemingly so much that frustrates us, or disappoints us, or just gets under our skin? So I told her, I don't exactly know all the time. I don't always stay away from it. But that's why I'm making this episode, because it reminded me of some of the practices and how we can better ourselves from making the practice. But then she said, and I'll never forget this. I think I'll probably take this into episode after episode, and you'll hear me say this again. "Okay, well, tell me the practices," she said. "Tell me the practices. Then I'll start practicing the practices." So I wrote that one down. I mean, tell me the practices so I can start practicing the practices. That is just gold. It's so good. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to share some practices. We're going to talk about a little bit about why we fall into the criticism trap. We're going to talk about how we can take breaks from it and what happens when we do. And I'm going to share those practices, the ones that I'm working on as well. Because the truth is, let's think about it for a second. We're all doing it. Criticism, it shows up everywhere, and it shows up all the time. It's not just those big dramatic critiques that we make or that others make. It's the little ones. It's the ones that sneak in. It's the ones we don't even clock as criticism because they're just like part of the day. They're like the running thoughts that go through our mind. It's like a low-grade, constant hum or musical background, not a happy musical background, mind you, because I love music, but like a constant commentary that rides alongside. Like, for example, when you're driving, let's pick some scenarios here. You're driving, the person in front of you is going just slow enough to be annoying, but not slow enough for you to pass them. And you start narrating the life choices through your windshield of what they could be doing right now. Anyone relate? Or how about the customer service calls? It seems endless. Certain days, certain weeks, you're on hold with the customer service line and the recording is saying, your call is very important to us. And you're like, is it though, Mr. Amazon automaton? Is it really? The weather? Oh my goodness, talking about the weather. It's too hot. It's too cold. What even is this wind outside today? It's too dark, too early, and daylight savings, don't even get me started with that one. So we do it also to other people. We criticize other people we don't even know. We do it in the coffee shop when we're in line behind someone and we're overhearing someone ordering what we think is overly complicated double latte grande cinnamon syrupy foamy, I sort of made that up just a little bit for effect, of course. And we do it sometimes when children are having meltdowns in public. We see eyes roll or commentary happening. Maybe you've even done it at times. And we do it when someone dares FaceTime in a waiting room, when we're just trying to take a moment to breathe. And oh my gosh, I think we've all experienced the loud speaking individual in a seat when people are boarding the plane, making the deal and having to get it done before the plane takes off. Really? We all need to hear that? The neighbor. Think about the neighbor, our lovely neighbors who bring in their trash, not just the way that you would do it. Sometimes we critique things as simple as that. And then there's ourselves. We do it in the mirror. We do it to our bodies. We do it about our jammed up inboxes and the to-do list. Oh my gosh, the to-do list. We critique it. Then we do it when we forget to call someone back and when someone forgets to call us back. So really, these are real things. Some of it's fair. Some of it's fair and real frustrations. Some of it's real inefficiencies with the world. But do we need to critique it? And do we get into sort of a cycle of it being so easy that systematically, as they say with the brain, the nerves that fire together, wire together, it becomes easier and easier to replicate that as we move through a day that as we look back can be filled with criticism. So we're not wrong. Our Wi-Fi should not drop mid-Zoom. People should merge together politely on a highway in zigzag fashion or whatever that's called. And I will openly admit that daylight saving time is not my favorite. But when you add it all up, we can spend hours of our precious waking minutes each day commenting and critiquing, noticing what's off and sharing it, sort of clogging our mental inbox, so to speak. Online, at work, in texts, in our own heads, it becomes almost like a background noise. And sometimes even a way we connect with others, like venting and bonding or laughing over what's not working. Here's the thing, though. A lot of us are actually trained to do this. And this is something that I think about at times. And it's a really interesting, I don't know, contrast, or not quite a conflict, but something to reconcile. In school, we actually learn to analyze and assess, to edit. In work, we're expected to find problems and fix them. Critique is sometimes seen as a sign of intelligence and even leadership. But when the skill spills over into everything all the time, it becomes the lens we start to see the world through, and it can get exhausting. It's like running, a Yelp review of your entire day. Can you imagine? And sometimes we can forget to just live it or focus on some alternatives that we could be practicing instead. So today's episode really is like a little mini reset on that. And you can do this periodically. It's a break or a little breath in that kind of momentum. And it's certainly not about pretending that everything's great with the world. It's not about toxic positivity or keeping quiet when something really matters. But it's about choosing when to engage and when to maybe soften the moment. It's about noticing, instead of having the critical voice just show up, noticing there may be a choice on what comes next. And maybe just letting one or two of those moments go. Because here's an idea I want to leave you with. You become what you practice. And most of us have gotten quite good at practicing criticism. But what if just for a day we practice something else? So that's what we're exploring today. The science of why we do it, the benefits from taking a break, the personal cost of staying in that loop, but the possibilities of what opens when we take a pause. And I'll show you the practices that if I share you can practice the practices, as my daughter will say, with a simple 5-part framework. I keep it simple, and hopefully a mindful and memorable statement that will help you right in the middle of real life, one day without criticism, and it can have profound ripple effects. So take a breath and let's settle in. This might be your, can I just get a minute type of moment, the kind where you're not asking for miracles on this, but just taking a pause. And the pause is about criticism. Let's now talk about what happens when we actually try this. I'm going to talk about the ROIs, the benefits, some science when we step away from the constant hum of critiquing, even if just for a day. So while there's no specific study entitled The Effects of a Criticism-Free Day, yet, I love the word yet, not yet. What we do have is some research that comes from neuroscience, from behavioral psychology, and mindfulness that points to the power of taking a break from the negative loops and reactive patterns that happen in humans. And it shows what can happen when we create even a little space and choose a different way of showing up. So here are some benefits. I have 5 of them, or the returns on investment of giving yourself a criticism-free day. You might even start to feel the shift in a few minutes of trying. And let's start by thinking about the brain. So ROI number 1, the benefit number 1 is quieting the negativity loop. In other words, breaking our reflex to critique. One of the first things that happens when we pause criticism, even a little, is we begin to quiet the negativity loop in the brain. Dr. Rick Hansen, a psychologist and a senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, isn't that a cool name? And a New York Times bestselling author, he explains that the brain is evolved to focus more on negative experiences than positive ones. And why is that? Well, because our ancient ancestors had to survive. So the brain developed a kind of like hypervigilance, a focus and a bias, really, toward what's wrong or what could go wrong. And so this negativity bias means that we tend to dwell in the criticism and problems of ourselves, of others, of the world, of our environment. It may have helped us avoid danger and might still, actually, in the past. In modern times, it can actually promote and lead to chronic stress or self-doubt or fatigue, emotional and physical, really. But the good news is that Dr. Hansen has always said that we can deliberately build positive experiences in the brain. We can actually rewire the patterns over time. As he puts it, and this is a quote, weave good experiences into the fabric of your brain and yourself so that you can weave those good experiences. And it really starts with awareness and a little practice, of course. So when you take a pause from that critical loop, when you catch yourself even, choose a different path. You're not just being nice, you're literally shifting the wiring in your brain towards something more positive and even more resilient. So benefit number 2, another major benefit of trying a criticism-free day is that it helps us break the habit loop, that automatic cycle of critique that many of us don't even realize that we're running in. So Dr. Judson Brewer, he's an MD and PhD researcher at Brown University, and he's a leading expert on mindfulness and behavior change. He talks about how our brains form what he calls habit loops. And here's how it works. There's a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. Maybe that sounds familiar, and maybe that sounds very animalistic, us humans as animals. A trigger, a behavior, and a reward. So in this case, the trigger might be a mistake. The behavior is criticizing yourself, maybe silently, but maybe out loud. And then the reward is a sense of control over that, or certainty, or maybe just a familiar feeling of, well, that's what I always do, that type of criticism. But over time, these loops can become automatic. We react without even realizing it. And the problem is, it's a false sense of control, and it's really not relief at all. It doesn't actually help. It just keeps the loop going. It's sort of like the hamster wheel, just running, running, running. So when we break from criticism, when we concretely and purposefully do, even just once or twice during a day, we can interrupt the cycle. We can create space between trigger and reaction. And in that space, that's where freedom lives. That's where change can begin. So Dr. Brewer, and I want to quote him as well, he says, a habit loop forms as the brain cycles and stores information to simplify tasks. It's important to understand how these loops occur and identify how some habits become problematic in your life. So it's not about any kind of magical perfection, but about pattern recognition, about the power of choosing something different and building that awareness as we break the habit loop. So another benefit from stepping back from criticism is giving yourself a chance to shift from snap judgments to thoughtful choices. So psychologist and Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, he wrote the book, you may have heard of it, as a wild bestseller around the world, Thinking, Fast and Slow. He explains about 2 systems that we have in our brains. System 1 is fast and automatic. It runs on instinct. It's the one that blurts out, what were we thinking? Before you've even had the thought sometimes. And then there's system 2. It's slower. It's more deliberate. And it's the part that pauses and considers and says, what else could be going on here? Or let me think about that for a moment. So here's the thing with this. Criticism usually comes from the first quick fire system, fast. It's automatic. It's the mental version of like slamming on the brakes without checking the mirrors first and seeing if it's necessary. But if you give yourself a second, a breath, you can enter into system 2 and you can call it in. And that's where you can get some perspective, maybe some empathy, and let's be honest, a little more wisdom probably as well. So taking a break from criticism isn't just about being nicer. And I said that before. It's about really building mental muscle And it can let us choose our response instead of reacting without thinking through that fast automatic system. And it's a shift from reacting on autopilot to choosing and getting yourself back in the driver's seat. Those drivers out there, right? We talk about the criticism that I mentioned before, other drivers, and then we get out of the car and we go, oh, hi, friend. We've just been talking about what they were driving, and then we get out and we see it's someone that we know. We're going to break some of that today and laugh at ourselves a little bit because we're human. So the next benefit of a criticism-free day is you can choose curiosity over certainty by inviting what's called a beginner's mind. So you're choosing curiosity about the situation over certainty that this is something worth criticizing. And this idea comes from Zen Buddhism, and especially from the teacher Shunryu Suzuki, who helped bring Zen philosophy to the West. He passed in 1971, but he's largely attributed to really bringing many of the ideas and philosophies of Zen Buddhism to the West originally. And he talked about something called the beginner's mind. It's a mindset of approaching life and people and conversations and even mistakes with openness, with a sense of maybe you don't know everything. There's more to see and more to learn, that there's more possibilities than you assumed at first. And Suzuki famously said, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's, there are few. And I don't know about you, but that really makes me pause, because the truth is, criticism often comes from a place of certainty, like you're for sure, because we think that we know already what someone meant. We think we know why they did what they're doing or are doing what they're doing. And we think we already know how the story is going to play out. But when we practice letting go of the tight grip, maybe, of being right or being the expert in the moment, again, we can create some space. We create that beginner's mind, the openness for listening and for learning, and something softer and maybe more gentle to yourself and for others. So stepping back from critiques is also stepping into curiosity. And I always like to turn us away from the negative toward something. If you're taking something away, what are you stepping into? What do you create space for? It's about stepping into curiosity. And this shift is not just philosophical. It changes how you can relate to people and how you may relate to yourself. And finally, the most personal benefit of all, when you pause your criticism, especially your self-criticism, you can create space for self-compassion. So Tara Brach, a clinical psychologist, a renowned thought leader in this space, and also a trained Buddhist teacher, and has a podcast who I can aspire to. She has over millions of people listening to her every episode, but she talks a lot about this. She reminds us that one of the most powerful ways to break the cycle of judgment is to treat ourselves with the same kindness we might offer to a good friend. You've heard a version of this before, certainly. Not pity on someone, not letting ourselves off the hook in a hollow way, but real compassion. And she says, and I quote, "Whenever we're trapped in self-judgment, our first and wisest step toward freedom is to develop compassion for ourselves." And I think that's just such a beautiful way to put it. Because so often we say things to ourselves we would never say out loud to someone else. Things that are sharp and dismissive and defeating. But when we choose to stop, even briefly, and ask, what would kindness sound like right now? We can shift the entire tone of our day. So a criticism-free day isn't just about being less reactive on the outside. It's about being more caring on the inside. It's a practice, and it's one that can pay you back the returns on investment every time you choose. Okay, so maybe you've been nodding along with some of these ideas. Maybe you've even been noticing how your own inner voice and what it's saying, you might be noticing a little more closely as we're talking about this topic. And all of this is part of the practice as well. So right now, before we actually get into the practices that will help you practice the practices, I want to offer a moment, our mindful minute, so that we can practice this a little bit in real time. It'll be our opportunity to pause and anchor ourselves and gently explore what it feels like to create space from criticism and maybe enter and put into it something that can be softer. So our mindful minute today is about moving from criticism to clarity. So let's first prepare briefly. If you're safe to do so, get yourself comfortable. If you're driving, still pay attention, but come back to this later. Let your feet rest gently on the floor. Feel grounded. Maybe dig your toes in for a second, then release. Dig your heels in for a second, release, so you know you're grounded. Let your hands settle wherever you are. Maybe soften your gaze, or you can gently close your eyes if it feels okay. Let's take one slow preparation breath in together through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay, let's begin. Bring to mind a recent moment, today or this week, when you felt that tug of criticism. Maybe it was toward someone else. Maybe it was toward yourself. Nothing dramatic, but just a quick reaction or maybe a judgment that you made. Continue to breathe. Just notice that moment and see it without fixing it. Label it maybe like judging or reacting. Sort of breathe through it. Invite in a different voice. What else might be going on here? Could I meet this moment with curiosity? And let that phrase, curiosity, echo quietly through your last couple breaths. Now let that moment go. Let it be. There we have it. A little bit more than a minute there. I had to let go the thing that was coming into my mind. It took a minute. Sometimes it does. But we just created a little space. You can shift something even just by noticing. And that's going to be the practice. It's about awareness. It's about taking a breath. It's about softening how our mind is thinking at that moment. It's how we begin. So thank you for sharing that mindful minute with me. So now it's time to put it into practice. We talked about why stepping away from the constant criticism can shift how we feel and how we relate and even how our brains function. And we've taken that minute together to notice, get sort of lost in that, and to release it, stepping into and toward clarity and into curiosity. So now how we bring this into real life, into our 1,000 waking minutes each day. As you may know already, if you've listened before, I like to try to keep things simple and hopefully memorable, something that you can tuck in your back pocket for when you need it most. You say, oh, I remember that. Sometimes it takes a little practice, but then we get it. So I've come up with a little framework, and it is one of those rare moments when an acronym actually kind of emerge that actually is a word that makes sense. And it's a word that fits the theme of today. And the word is clear, CLEAR. Because when we step back from criticism, especially the quick and reactive things, we do start to feel a little clearer. Our relationships, our choices, even our inner dialogue, that chatter. So here it is, 5 steps to help you create a criticism-free day, or at least a few criticism-free moments. But I encourage you to try the whole day. Just keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it. And the best part is you don't need anything fancy here at all. You just need a little intention, little awareness to bring to it, and 5 letters. C in clear is catch it. This is the first step, just to notice. Catch the moment that the critical thought shows up. It might be about someone else. It might be about yourself. It might be about that coffee order or that driver who cut you off. Whatever it is, notice it. Label it gently if that helps, like we did in the Mindful Minute. Is it judging? Is it wanting to fix something? Here it is again. Awareness is the first step of beginning to change. Catch it. L, let it pause. Oh my gosh, the pause. Here's the part that feels small but makes so much difference. Do nothing. Take a beat. Take a breath. Close your lips. Whatever it is, take a pause. Let it pause. Don't react yet. Don't post the comment. Don't speak the sentence. Take a breath and let the moment breathe too. You're starting to interrupt the pattern when you take pauses. We use this all the time in all kinds of things that we want to make change in our behaviors, in our workplace. It's take a pause, let it pause, and it can be powerful. E, explore with curiosity. Here's that curiosity. Explore. Instead of defaulting to critique, get curious. Ask, what is going on here? What else might be true? I always love that one. What's missing? What else might be true? Or even, why is this bothering me right now? Why? One of my favorites from earlier that I talked about is, I wonder what's behind that choice. I wonder what's behind that. This is the beginner's mind in action. You're going to choose to be open, curious, instead of certain. Next, A, ask. Is it necessary or helpful to criticize, to say something? Not every thought needs to become an action. Not every reaction needs a reaction. Ask, is it necessary or helpful? Ask yourself, is this for connection or correction? Is this true? Is this kind? Is this needed? This is a little nod to that Buddhism's right speech right there. Sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes it's just not the moment for that. And R, release or rephrase. Now you have a choice. Because you have a choice. You can let it go, release it. You can let it go entirely, maybe with a big breath. Exhale, on the exhale. Or you can reframe it into something kinder or more useful. Release or rephrase. You might try like a phrase, may I be well, may they be well. It's like a meta phrase or a little mantra that you can work through. Or you might choose silence. Or you might choose humor. Or you might choose patience. You can let it move through, and you're actually in control here because you have a choice to release or rephrase. So that's the practice. Catch it, let it pause, explore, ask, and release. Clear, C-L-E-A-R. When you want to clear your mind of criticism, even just for a moment, this is your guide. And maybe this becomes your mantra for the day. Maybe this is your mini reset when something gets under your skin, or even the way you shift how you speak to yourself, especially when no one's listening. Because the truth is, when we make room for this kind of clarity, for using clear, you can free so much space up as well for your creativity, for your compassion, for calm, just being a little more human with each other, perhaps. Clear, C-L-E-A-R. So here's the thing I hope you take with you today. You become what you practice. And for my daughter and you, hopefully I've given you the practices in a way that you can go practice the practices to help start to break the cycle of criticism that we all find ourselves in from time to time. And by the way, if you, like so many of us, have been practicing criticism, even unintentionally, then it makes sense that it shows up so easily. So don't criticize that about yourself. But what if just for a day you practice something else? So maybe it's catching one critical thought before it leaves your lips. Maybe it's pausing before an eye roll. Maybe it's choosing curiosity or even compassion instead of a usual reaction. Even one small shift can start to change the tone of your day. And that's the invitation. Try it. I sure am. I do, and I am, and I remind myself when I need it most. And sometimes it comes up when the timing of episodes happen as well. So try it with someone. This can be really cool to try with a friend and check in and even reflect and even marvel, sometimes laugh about it later. And remember, this is not about creating some idealized version of a world that's free of criticism, but it's about practicing toward releasing some of the noise, lowering the background music of critiques, and turning up the volume on awareness and the happy and joyful music you really want to listen to. It's about your presence. It's about giving the people around you and yourself just a little more space to be human. Do you feel like you might need this? I know I do every so often. So if you do give it a try, I'd truly love to hear from you. You can always find me at wendybazilian.com. That's my website. Or you can write me at 1kwm@wendybazilian.com. And again, you might try this with a friend or share, if you would, the episode with someone who might like this. And as always, thank you for sharing a few of your waking minutes with me today as we explored the simple but powerful practice of a criticism-free day. Until next time, be well. Thank you for tuning in to 1000 Waking Minutes. A huge thank you to our amazing collaborators, including our production and marketing teams, and Gabriela Escalante in particular. To the ultra-talented Beza for my theme music, my lifelong friend and artist, Pearl Price Photography and Design, to Daniel Ballantyne, Jen Nguyen, Joanna Powell, and of course my family, and everyone working tirelessly behind the scenes. And to you, our valued listeners, I so appreciate your support. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a comment, writing a review, and giving 1000 Waking Minutes, that's us, a 5-star rating. And please hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Please follow and stay connected at wendybazilian.com. And don't forget to share with your friends. Your support helps us grow and bring you more great content. Until next time, find some simple opportunities to optimize those 1000 waking minutes each day.
I'm saying yes